Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I am Vega. No, not really. I don't wear a mask, nor do I have the Wolverine claws. You know, what I find funny about the name Vega, since I grew up with Street Fighter 2 and the various sequels, whenever I see the name Vega, I always think about Vega, the Street Fighter character, versus, Vega something else. Even though in Japan, Vega was originally what M. Bison would be, which is hilarious. What's funny is there's all those references in the late 80s, early 90s to Mike Tyson. So M. Bison was supposed to be, it's like Mike Tyson. It's like, and now Mike Tyson is basically just kind of a joke. Especially after the whole ear-biting thing. I do remember there was a particularly hilarious Jay Leno sketch. I remember this from when I was a kid, so I don't know if it's that funny now. Where, it had, the fake products, and there was, what was the name of the guy? Mr. Hollywood? I can't remember the name of the boxer. I almost said wrestler. The boxer that he bit the ear off of, but it's, supposed to be, ear hot sauce or something. It was amusing. It's funny how Jay Leno has definitely endured since then, he was the head of the Tonight Show for very long, although Johnny Carson is still number one. And he still has a show, that Jay Leno Garage Show, which is not bad. I've actually seen a few episodes of that. And I'm not that big a fan of classic cars, not like I am a fan of firearms, but I still like cars. And I do collect a few car models here and there. And my Hot Wheels collection, along with Matchbox, was fairly large as a kid. I say fairly large. I had quite the car box. And I still have them to this day. I would never get rid of them. But I never really talk about cars or trucks or anything like that, just because that's not something I'm that interested in. I've always been a big fan of three main vehicles. One, the DeLorean. I know it's supposed to be complete crap, but you know what? If you're going to build a time machine out of a car, do it with some style. What you can do, build it out of a goddamn Pinto. And two, the Jeep. The specific, World War II Willis-styled Jeep. I've always loved that thing. And then three, that Mercedes SUV. I don't remember what it's called. I think it's the G Series. I've always loved that thing. Because it just looks so cool. It's like a Hummer, but with style. I still like the Hummer, but I would never buy one just because if I was going to pay that kind of money, I'd get the Mercedes instead. But that's one of the things, though. It's I'm a big fan of just basic cars in general. It's the sedan. It's not as fancy as a truck or an SUV, but you know what? It gets the job done. And with good gas mileage as well. Now, I'm not one of those people that's we have to have perfect gas mileage for the environment. Instead, it's just, I don't want to have to pay a shitload for gas. Because gasoline does get expensive, and it's actually pretty cheap, in America compared to other places. But I'm a big fan of largely vehicles, but I don't like paying the largely gas prices for them. I need better weapons. Why do I only have a fucking 22? Not that 22s are bad. Oh, fucking asshole. Shoot him in the back! Give me your health, you fucking cretin. You fucking bastard. You don't even get a fucking crit. Well, I don't know where I went just now. I got caught between all three of them. The game lagged, and then I died. Well, we're off to a grand start, aren't we? Now we're all the way back here, but we didn't get very far. Okay, what kind of... Okay, there we go. That's what we're going to use. But I'm very fortunate to live in a place that has good gas prices, at the very least. California, ugh. Massive gas taxes that are literally just wasted. It's just a massive waste. It's quite sad, really. Because California is some very beautiful country, but I would never want to live there, just because of the sheer insanity when it comes to the taxes they have. The high taxes is never a good thing in many instances, because it always ends up hurting people who don't have a lot of money. It's it sounds good on paper, but the reality is very... Oh, that's a new execution! He has no head, and he has no heart. But high taxes, you know? It's like, and all that money gets wasted. You know, it's always wasted on pet projects that never go anywhere. And utter massive amounts of political corruption. You know, that's the thing. I've never understood why people like big government, you know? Because I guess if you don't know any better, then it's easy to be like, oh, the bigger the government, the better they can help the people, I guess. But man, I've been studying more about the German Air Force, the Luftwaffe, recently. Man, so much political corruption. It's a wonder they even got a fucking biplane up, you know? But you read about that. You read about big government no matter what, no matter where, and it's pretty much all the same thing. Competing egos, competing philosophies that are usually mutually exclusive. And you wonder how anything can possibly get done. And you really wonder why anybody wants them to have any more power than they absolutely need. And that's the thing. That's not meant to be political. It's just meant to be an observation. You know, a lot of this stuff really shouldn't be one party or another. It's just that's the nature of government itself. Government itself is, by its nature, very unwieldy. And the idea of giving it more and more power really is self-defeating. It's sort of a catch-22. You know, there's only so much government can do, and the more power you give it, the less it can do. Because then you have to have all these different bureaus and organizations such as that. Really, I recommend, you know, reading up on the various governmental bodies and really learn, you know, what it is that they do. Because it's not just pass a law, you know. I am going to die because I don't have any weapons. I'm gonna charge over here. I see, like, that particular enemy there is quite an aggravating one, but not as bad as the Pinky. Oh, I thought I almost got her. Got her. Now, hopefully that Pinky won't kill me while I'm doing the execution. Aha! That went through him! Bullshit! Come on, use it. And smack him. But that being said, talking about governments in fiction, you know, you got like the Rebel Alliance. You gotta wonder, how does that work? How do they get paid? Obviously, it's not important for the story, but, you know, or like the Sith. The Sith are a very good example. You know, it's like you got the Sith. I can't imagine how a Sith government would actually work or how long it would last. You know, ignorance of how complex systems work or do not work is something that you can see in a wide variety of places. You know, the idea that, okay, the Empire from Star Wars, not the Sith Empire, but the actual Empire under Palpatine, is really a horrible style of government. I'm not talking just from a human perspective, but I'm talking also, that looks really cool. Also, this really doesn't look like hell. This looks more like, once again, this is getting a lot of painkiller vibes here. Oh, the heart's dead. Oh, well, I can't eat that. But this is very much a painkiller vibe. Those knights just don't look right. They should look like Doom Guy, or better yet, you know what would have been nice is if they looked like characters from a previous id Software franchise. But whatever, generic Templar knights, I guess, is cool. But like that, the Empire under Palpatine basically was what National Socialist Germany was. You know, everybody was competing against themselves so that Palps could maintain power. It's almost exact. The thing is, though, it's a very inefficient government that won't work, and once the dictator is dead, it completely collapses, which is why in canon it does. The Empire just completely collapses once Palps dies. Because there's no real loyalty to the concept of the Empire. You know, and Darth Vader really wasn't a very good guy. You know, he would kill any political opponent he could, which is as you would expect from a political guy like Vader. But in all reality, you know, the Death Star is another example of, you know, a wonder weapon that doesn't really work right. Because it's like, why would... The Death Star, really the only good thing it can do is force a battle. The idea is that it forces a battle on the Empire's terms. It's like, you can't really move a planet, you can't really evacuate a planet. So what you have to do is fight the Death Star, and likely you'll lose. And the Empire better hope that. But, you know, you see the way their government just doesn't really work from a logical standpoint. Really, what the Empire in Star Wars is what the Empire in 40K would become. It's very much a feudal structure with the Empire, with the Emperor himself as, well, a High King or just an Emperor. You know, an Emperor would imply much more centralization than what is there. You know, and you see that in the very first Star Wars movie. You know, the regional governors now have direct control over their territories, meaning they owe greater fealty to Palps, but ultimately they control all that they control. And jump down. Actually, I'm going to jump over here. Didn't I just come from here? Yeah, I think I did. Yeah, well, fuck it. We'll jump down here. That's where it's supposed to be anyway. And so it's like a feudalistic government doesn't really work in the long run, but yeah, whatever. Yeah, whatever. But the Sith Empire is even dumber, though. Kill him. They've been trying to do that, Space Satan, and they haven't been doing a very good job of it. You guys, you might want to, you know, check your hiring policies, because these guys, they're pretty bad. I mean, I'm just saying, you know, Space Satan, and I'm not gonna tell you how to do your job, but it's like these guys, you know, he's not even shooting at me. He just can't compete, you know. I don't know. Maybe they just hired him fresh out of college. They're not sure what they're doing yet. Demon College, Berkeley. And smack him. But the Sith Imperium wouldn't work for a variety of reasons. I think the biggest one is it would collapse into anarchy almost immediately. No one has any loyalty to anything. That's the thing. Individual loyalty is something that is very important in a government. The idea of rule of law. You hear that a lot now, and it's like, oh, rule of law. But rule of law is very important. Rule of law is what really keeps a society functioning. As much as we hate laws, many of the more important... The idea of law is more important necessarily than the law itself, because you're never going to have 100% enforcement of laws, but the idea that the law exists is very important. And keep in mind, in politics, the perception of an event or the perception of an individual means more than the individual or the actual event itself. The idea that something is more important than its simply being. I don't know why I'm getting all philosophical today, but hey, that's just what happens when I play video games. And give me some old quad damage. Perception is key, though, in politics. Why? Because the reality seldom is important. We can definitely see that with the current political climate today, is the reality can be very different from what is reported. It's actually quite interesting to see that. But it's not just in politics. It's also in just about every facet of one's life. What one is perceived to do is perhaps more important than what one actually does. And you can see this in a variety of areas as well. You know, like if you are perceived to be competent, people will think that you are competent even if you are not. And I think that it also comes down to like hype as well is important. The perception that something is popular, because there are some who wish to do things just to be popular. You know, it's like the fidget spinner. It's a very popular thing, and you want to be a fashionable person. You want to be one of the cool kids, so you have a fidget spinner. Whether or not you may or not... And that's one of the reasons why once the fads, you know, fall out of favor, no one really cares anymore, because no one cared to begin with. I really hate pinkies, by the way. The brains aren't much better. Oh, that is just so lame, it's not even funny. Or maybe it is. Maybe it's so lame, it became funny, and it went full fucking circle! You think you are the Predator? Here's hoping that Predators is good. We'll just have to see. Not Predators, The Predator is good, even though Disney now owns, well, everything. Well, you know, since Disney now owns Predator, it makes you wonder if we're gonna see the Predator show up in Kingdom Hearts. Because, well, I mean, why not? It's a Disney property. I still need to play Kingdom Hearts. That first bit of the game, though, I just was like, oh god, like I don't know, maybe I wasn't in the right mood at the time. There's always that possibility. God damn it. Fucking... Now see, if I had this on fucking ultra-violence, I'd have, like, no health now, because he just swiped me once. See, now I'm actually having what is called fun. What? That's back him. And that means the Predator can actually finally start fighting some Star Wars characters. That's always a big problem with Versus, though. It's like, there's that famous, I think it's like a DeviantArt image of the Predator holding Boba Fett's severed head. The thing is, whenever there's a thing like that, it's like, that must have been a really good Predator. But you would never want to see Boba Fett be killed because it's Boba Fett. He's a very popular character for a reason. People like him because he's very enigmatic. He's sort of an escapist kind of character, although not on the same scale as, say, Cobra. Now, this looks really cool, but it's still weird, though. This is the only hell part that's actually legitimately hell, in my opinion. This sort of eldritch, pseudo-organic kind of thing. Like, that's some body that was having the energy drained out of him. Look at that. See, that's hell. Most of the rest of this is just rock and some stone, and that's it. It's a lot easier to model, though. There is that, ladies and gentlemen, and since it's easier to model, I can't really fault them for that. Okay, now where the hell are we supposed to go? I remember kind of getting lost around here the first time I played this. Ah, there it is. Yeah, I kind of got lost, and then I found it immediately because I am smart. Because I am the smartiest. You know, this guy is unfucking believably stupid. I'm gonna keep that meme alive. Somebody's got to keep that meme alive. I still love that all your base art belong to us meme. Just because that song is actually pretty good. Zero Wing is actually not a bad side-scrolling shooter. Although, it's not my favorite kind of side-scrolling shooter, though. I'm a much bigger fan of Arrow Flash than I ever would be Zero Wing, just because Zero Wing is one of those, you die once and you go back to a checkpoint, and believe me, unless you're like some sort of crazy Twitch kind of guy, you're not going to be able to live very long in some of those. You see like the devil tree there? That looks kind of cool. I don't know, I think the art design could have been a little more unique. It just seems like they kind of phoned it in on some of this stuff, because like, this looks like, just right here, this looks less like Doom and more like Quake, but then there's some more Doom-like elements. I still say the best hell is the Doom 3 hell. It looks legitimately hellacious. Hellacious, man! And blow him up! And then smack him again. Just keep smacking him. The very concept of the video game hell is one that would be somewhat difficult to really get right. Because the idea is that you wouldn't even be able to attack the devil or any of the various demons because they'd have all like the mental and magical powers. Which is why attacking anything in the warp in 40k is so difficult. But then again, that wouldn't make for a very fun game, would it? It would make for a very fun game, so you'd have to change that a little bit. But it is an interesting concept, though. I think one of the scarier hells that I've seen in media was the one from that Robin Williams movie. What Dreams May Come, where like the floor was made out of faces. I don't remember exactly what the plot for that was. I think like his wife died, and then like he died of like cancer or something, and he went to heaven, but she didn't. No, he died of something, and then she killed herself, and he had to like go to hell and like rescue her or something. Which, you know, my big problem with that whole lot, that is something that a number of people do believe, that if you do kill yourself, you go to hell. But it's like, how little sense does that make? So like, if you're a murderer and you repent on your deathbed, you get in. But if you kill yourself, oh no, that's the scum of the earth, can't let him in. That's where I don't really buy that crap. And honestly, I don't care if I'm opening up a can of worms or not. That's GeneralLotz. We are here to open minds and question things. Speaking of opening minds and questioning things, Robert Anson Heinlein, ladies and gentlemen, is a writer that I've read only one book of his, and you can probably guess which one it was. It even had the movie cover on there. Starship Troopers was not the only book he did, but was one of his most famous. Starship Troopers, in the modern era, people like to say it's fascist. I'm not sure where they got that. The movie has nothing to do with the book. The movie's good anyway. The sad part is, fans of the book don't like the movie, but I like them. I like the book and I like the movie. Both are good, so... just for different reasons. It's like, how can you not love a movie where it's like, how can he push that button if you have disabled his hand? How can you not love that? If you just, like, instead of saying Starship Troopers, just call it Bug War, like it was originally intended, then there you go. Then you can be happy and enjoy a really awesome Paul Verhoeven movie. But Robert A. Heinlein, I've been reading some blog posts of a writer that I really like. He's a big fan of Robert A. Heinlein. And I didn't know, because I don't care. But apparently the SJWs have been coming down hard on old Robert Anson, saying that he was a racist, because everybody's a racist according to them, and that he was a sexist. Come to find out, he really wasn't. Now, I've tried to sit through some of Heinlein's juveniles. Back in the day, that's what young adult books were called. It's like, he had like a couple like Have Spacesuit Will Travel and stuff like that. And I didn't know this until I started reading these blog posts, but apparently they were supposed to be like for young teens. And when I was a young teen, I did try to read Have Spacesuit Will Travel, and I thought it was the dullest thing imaginable. But it's funny to see that a lot of these modern day SJWs don't seem to think of, never seem to take into account that there are differences in one's time period. 100 years from now, the SJWs will be seen as utterly insane, but right now they're seen as, you know, top of the line. Back in the day, Robert Anson was quite a visionary in many instances in what he was talking about. He added a lot of female characters to his works, and was a very practically minded writer about what the future could potentially look like. The one thing that has described him, and at least from Starship Troopers, is true, is humanity will always be humanity, no matter if they have cell phones, Facebook, or, you know, quantum entanglement book. You know, they're always gonna be human. And you know, when you think about that, that's true. How different are we really from 100 years ago? There's a lot of elements that are very different from politics in 1918, but how much has really stayed the same? People still fight one another for political purposes. People still feel they're superior to others for political purposes. How different are we really? People still love, people still hate, people still fight. What makes us human... oh, shit. The things that make us human still exist unto this day. And I think it's a rather interesting thing to see a writer that understands human nature. In fact, one of the reasons why Starship Troopers is so beloved, I think, in many instances, is it doesn't pull any punches with what it says, with its overall message, you know, the idea... well, even the movie kind of gets it right, even though I think, once again, as I always say, symbols can mean whatever you want them to mean. So, in the movie, Starship Troopers, it starts out with Michael Ironside talking about violence and stuff like that, how violent... I mean, or does he do that? I can't remember. Because in the book, the character, the Michael Ironside character is in the book, and he talks about how violence solves everything. And it does. It does. You can see that. Look at the violence that Antifa utilized against speakers on college campuses. They used violence, they showed up and pushed people around, and now, if you are even remotely a conservative speaker, you can't speak without a massive police escort. Violence solved that. They didn't like what they had to say, they used violence, and it solved it. It's naive to think that violence doesn't solve things. It's not good, But that's neither here nor there. It doesn't matter if it's good. It only matters that it is, you know. Humanity is an interesting creature, you know. There are many different beliefs of humanity. One of them is that humanity is, by its nature, evil. I actually have a much more optimistic appraisal of humanity. I still believe that humanity is basically good, but that doesn't really matter because humanity in and of itself might be basically good, but that doesn't mean everyone's going to be good. You know, that's the important thing. If, say, let's say 95% of humanity is basically good. That might be a bit overstating it, but let's say it is. You know, if that's the case, that's still 5% that isn't. And so you're still screwed if they ain't good. And that's one of the things to just keep in mind, you know. Humanity is humanity as... Humanity will do as humanity will. No amount of fancy words or excuses will change that. Now that is an absolutely ghastly color scheme. I love it. Chain gun model. I wouldn't have said that. Okay, this song here, I honestly think it's like, every time I listen to it, I always think of the song, the Rolling Stone song, "You Can't Always Get What You Want." You know, Doom Guy, you can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you can use the Crucible and lay the souls to rest. Which is what he needed. And I really hope this level's almost over because I'm running into yet another gaming issue of I need to urinate, but I cannot because I must finish the level. Alright, there we go. So, humanity is humanity. I definitely recommend reading Starship Troopers. It's not as much of a slog as some of the other Robert A. Heinlein books. I don't know, I just could never slog through some of his stuff, like, have spacesuit will travel. I tried that so much. And just like, yeah, 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 and various other words like that. Some of the older SF is hard to read, just because like the technology is really, really primitive. Or more importantly, it's just the tone they use is just kind of. Oh, there it is. It's like, where'd the thing go? Where did the thing go? See, you know what the problem is? There's 3 of them. And so, this is going to become its own episode, simply because I have to urinate. So this is GeneralLotz wishing you good, too much water, or whatever makes you happy.